Hello, welcome to Miss Peepers Reading Corner. I'm Katrina, aka Miss Peepers. Let's talk about Banned Books Week. "1984, what a year. Steve Jobs launched the Macintosh computer. For my younger viewers, that's the OG Apple. Australia introduced the $1 coin. The TED Conference was founded, and Joe Kittinger was the first person to fly across the Atlantic solo in a hot air balloon. While these and so many more significant events happened in 1984, that year also comes with a darker connotation, notably the fictional totalitarian superstate portrayed in George Orwell's novel of the same name. Banned Books Week is an annual celebration of the written word and an opportunity to learn about censorship. This year, the American Library Association and the Banned Books Coalition, who jointly host the event and with whom I am not affiliated, chose a theme, Censorship is So 1984. I've been thinking about this theme throughout my own Banned Books Week planning. By the time you watch this video, Banned Books Week 2025 is over, but here in Miss Peepers Reading Corner, we like to celebrate this week for the entire month of October. Scripting, filming, editing, and posting 30 videos and one live stream in 1 month is a lot of work, and every time my energy is flagged, I have to think about why I'm doing this. Because censorship is so 1984. It should be a remnant of the past known only in the pages of fiction. But while Big Brother is not always watching most of us, the vehicles of fascism are gathering steam, particularly in the United States. You can't open a news story right now without seeing evidence of this. Questionable political appointments, masked law enforcement, open bigotry, and unbridled censorship. Given the focus of my channel, this video is about that last item, but make no mistake, these things are all connected. In the book 1984, the government, otherwise known as Big Brother, restricts citizens' access to all materials. Everything is censored, redacted, and rewritten, including newspaper articles, reference books, and works of fiction. And even language is being edited into something called newspeak, so that it discourages independent thought. While there's not a lot of information in the book about how this dystopian hellscape came to be, because history has been redacted into oblivion, it always felt to me like a top-down oppression. I think that a group took over key government positions and made changes that ground down the masses and silenced anyone who rebelled. But as I look at our own world, I wonder how much the way was paved by citizens grinding themselves down. Let's get back to books, specifically the act of reading. Now, children can begin reading independently around the ages of 6 or 7, and they can begin to identify words as early as 3 or 4. Now, that of course assumes that they are in an environment that encourages and educates them. On social media, there's a rise in something called radical unschooling. This is a complex topic, and there's not a lot of hard data yet, so most of my comments here are going to be opinions based on what I've seen so far. I'll put a few links in the description as well in case you want to learn more. Homeschooling's been around for a long time, and it can be beneficial if it's done well, and if a particular student is not well suited to the public school environment that's available. Radical unschooling, though, is a different animal. It is a type of homeschooling, but the stated approach is to allow the child to guide their own learning, with the idea that if a child is interested in a topic, they're more likely to want to learn it so that they will learn it better. However, from what I can tell, this usually seems to be devolving into a busy parent dragging their kid from errand to errand and not actually teaching them. And usually the people on social media who are at least presenting this are the mothers of these children, which is not to say that men don't also radically unschool their children. They're just, from what I can tell, not as well represented online. So it seems to be something that the mothers are driving. And here's the thing. There are different levels of homeschooling, different approaches to it, and I'm not going to sit here and blast all homeschooling as wrong. First of all, I don't think that's true, and second, I don't have nearly enough information to dig into all of those nuances. So if your child is getting an education while you are homeschooling your child, if they are learning things, if they are getting to the point where they could pass a GED when the time comes, they could potentially apply to colleges when the time comes, That's fine. That's good. That means you're doing your child a service. These children, however, in this category of radical unschooling, are often getting to ages in double digits without even being able to read basic sentences. Double digits. This is something that you should be able to do, at least to some degree, around the ages of 6 or 7, and yet parents are specifically preventing their children from learning this by not teaching them because the child didn't show interest. Now, I want to pause here and comment that there are a lot of causes of illiteracy, most of which are systemic. And it's critical that those of us with the privilege to do so use our platforms to speak out in favor of good education and to speak out for those who cannot. So that kind of environment is not what I'm talking about here in this video. Right now, I don't think radical schooling is terribly widespread. There's a group of very loud influencers that probably make the problem seem a lot bigger than it is. But that was true of a lot of things that once were small and spread over social media, from the usually innocuous minimalist movement to the, quite frankly, terrifying tradwife movement, and everything in between. And what upsets me the most about radical schooling is that this is something that parents are deliberately doing to their children that will hold them back. And while it's usually a stay-at-home mom or a multi-level marketing entrepreneur who's doing the radical unschooling, I have a lot of thoughts about MLMs too, but that's out of scope of this video. If that mom has a co-parent, then that person is also responsible, even if they're invisible in the social media. Shame on both of you for doing this to your child. Shame on you. But you might be asking, Ms. Peepers, how does this even happen? Aren't there rules? I thought that you were required to go to school at least up to a certain age, usually about 16. And while that's technically true, in the US, different states have different rules around homeschooling. So some states have some pretty clear structure around it, that if you choose to homeschool your child, you have to follow certain curricula or make sure that the child can pass certain standardized tests, or you have to turn in those materials to make it clear that you are in fact teaching your child something useful that would be equivalent to what they would get in a public school. Other states, though, require pretty much no paperwork other than letting the school know your child's not going to be coming anymore. And that is what's the most terrifying to me. The states that just say, you declare yourself a homeschooler and have fun, do your thing. That is horrific to me, because it means that you can get away with not teaching your child anything useful. These parents will tell you that what they are teaching is useful, that they're teaching their child to cook, to maintain a household. They're teaching their child to go grocery shopping, which involves mathematics, and it should, so you can count up your grocery bill and make sure you're not spending more money than you have. You're learning how to budget, all of those things. You're learning how to read labels, which does require you to learn how to read. But what shows up in these videos is actually a lot of children who aren't learning those things, or who are sort of passively listening while their mother talks at them. And also, can I just point out that teaching your child to maintain a household, to do chores, to cook, to clean, to do laundry, to grocery shop, to manage a budget, that's called parenting. That is something you should be doing regardless of how your child is being educated otherwise. And I know that the public school system is far from perfect. And I'm a firm believer that formal education is not the only valid type of education. Informal education is so important. But if you get all your information from one person, regardless of who that person is, if you only interact with the people who live in your household with any sort of regularity, if you only hear one worldview, then that's a problem. And I say this as an introverted homebody. I still find value in interacting with people who don't live in my house. I still find value in seeing the outside world and interacting with it and getting worldviews and opinions from people who are not me and who are not the people in my immediate circle. Because that is how you learn empathy. That's how you learn to take in new information and adjust your opinions based on what you have learned, because your opinions should not be fixed at a young age and never change. So when people choose not to educate their children, what they're doing is they are raising people who cannot think critically, who cannot adjust their opinions when they get new information, who cannot manage interpersonal conflicts with people who are different from them, which is something, by the way, if you go into any workforce, you're going to have to do that no matter how wrong the other people are from your viewpoint. These are people who will not know how to question authority productively or to notice hypocrisy when it's coming at them because they haven't learned these skills. And to be really clear, this is not the kid's fault. I don't blame the kid, even when they grow up to be an adult. And we're starting to see, it's still early days, but we are starting to see creators online who are survivors, and I'm going to call them that, survivors of this kind of upbringing. And they are trying to learn how to learn. People who made it to adulthood without knowing how to read, who are now finding ways to learn that because they know it's a valuable skill. So this lack of general education does in fact hurt the child, and I feel for them. But the consequences stretch so much further than the individual. The less education we see, the more anti-intellectualism that spreads through our society, the worse off we all are as a whole. So let me know in the comments what this theme, censorship is so 1984, means to you. And please be civil with each other. I would really appreciate that. We can all disagree about things if we want to. If you don't want to be someone who wholeheartedly believes that 2 + 2 = 5 just because the Ministry of Truth tells you so, then please keep reading for yourself and also for the rest of us. And I will see you in the next one.